Family didn't invite me to Christmas because it's no place for losers, my sis said. I calmly agreed and stopped funding her kids and husband. Now she's begging. I'm Sarah, 34F, and I've always been the family's designated ATM. My sister Jessica, 31F, has 2 kids, Emma, 8, and Tyler, 6, and her husband Brad, 35M, who hasn't held a steady job in 2 years. Meanwhile, I've worked my ass off building a successful marketing consultancy that now brings in mid-6 figures annually. I know how that sounds, but I'm not bragging, it's relevant to the story. Growing up, Jessica was always the golden child. She was the cheerleader, the homecoming queen, the one who got married young to her high school sweetheart. I was the bookworm, the one who spent Friday nights studying instead of partying. Our parents, Linda and Robert, made it clear who their favorite was, though they'd never admit it outright. When Jessica got pregnant at 22, right before college graduation, I stepped up. I helped with a down payment on their house, $50,000 that I'd saved for my first job. When Brad lost his construction job a year after Emma was born, I quietly started paying their mortgage. $2,400 a month, every month, for the past 2 years now. When Emma needed braces, I covered the $4,500. When their car broke down, I bought them a reliable Honda Civic. When Tyler needed speech therapy that insurance only partially covered, I paid the remaining $75 per session twice weekly without question. I never made a big deal about any of it. I'd transfer the money quietly, and Jessica would send a quick thanks sis text. Our parents knew I helped out sometimes, but they had no idea about the extent of it. Jessica made sure of that, always framing it as Sarah offered or Sarah insisted, never acknowledging that without me, they'd have lost their house years ago. The thing is, I didn't mind. I love my niece and nephew. I love my sister, despite everything. I figured family helps family, and I was in a position to help. I'm single, no kids, and my business was thriving. What's money for if not to help the people you care about? But over the years, I started noticing how Jessica talked to me. Little comments here and there. Must be nice not having any real responsibilities. Some of us can't just focus on making money all the time. You wouldn't understand, you don't have kids. It stung, but I brushed it off. I figured she was just stressed about money and taking it out on me. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. It was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and we were all at our parents' house for our usual family dinner. Jessica was going on about their Christmas plans, how Brad's family was coming over, how she'd managed to save up enough to hire someone to help decorate their house this year. Sarah, you should come by Christmas Eve afternoon, she said casually, not even looking up from her phone. Before the family celebration starts. I was confused. What do you mean, before the real celebration? That's when she looked at me with this condescending smile. Well, Christmas Eve is for Brad's family, and Christmas Day is for people with families. You know, actual families. Kids, spouses, people who've built something meaningful with their lives. The room went quiet. My parents shifted uncomfortably, but they didn't say anything. They never do. So what are you saying exactly? I asked, keeping my voice level. Jessica shrugged. I'm saying Christmas isn't really your scene, is it? It's family time. Kid time. It's about celebrating what really matters in life, not whatever it is you do all day. Whatever I do all day? I repeated. Come on, Sarah. You sit in front of a computer making PowerPoints. It's not like you're changing the world or anything. And you're 34 and single. Christmas is about families, about people who've actually accomplished something meaningful. There's just no place for losers at our table. The word hit me like a physical blow. Losers. She called me a loser. Me, the person who'd been subsidizing her entire life for years. But here's the thing, I didn't explode. I didn't yell or cry or storm out like the old Sarah might have. Instead, I felt this weird calm wash over me. Like everything suddenly made perfect sense. You're absolutely right, I said, standing up and grabbing my purse. There's no place for losers. Jessica looked surprised by my agreement. Oh. Well, good. I'm glad you understand. I do understand. Perfectly. I kissed my parents goodbye and headed for the door. Enjoy your Christmas. I went home and opened my laptop. First, I called my bank and set up a stop payment on the automatic transfer to Jessica's mortgage company. Then I called the mortgage company directly. Since I'd been making payments consistently for 2 years and they had me in their system as an authorized contact for payment inquiries, I was able to inform them I'd no longer be making payments on the account. Next, I logged into Emma's orthodontist portal and canceled the automatic payment for her braces. I did the same for Tyler's speech therapy sessions, their car payment, yes, I'd been making that too, and the family cell phone plan I'd been covering. Then I called my accountant, Janet, at home. Janet's been doing my books for 5 years, and she knows about all my family gifts. I asked her to calculate exactly how much I'd given Jessica's family over the past 2 years. The number was staggering, $89,200. That's not including the house down payment or the various emergency funds I provided over the years. Monday morning, I had Janet draw up an official summary of family financial assistance totaling the $89,200. I knew it had no legal standing since these were gifts, but I wanted the documentation for my own records and peace of mind. I also did something else that Monday. I called my friend Marcus, who's a family lawyer, and asked about grandparent rights and financial dependency. I wanted to understand exactly what obligations, if any, I had. Turns out, I had none. The money I'd been providing was legally considered gifts, and I was under no obligation to continue them. The first sign that Jessica was catching on came the following Tuesday. She called me, annoyed. "Sarah, there's some problem with Emma's orthodontist. They're saying her payment didn't go through and they're going to postpone her next appointment." "Oh no," I said. "That sounds like something you'll need to handle." "What do you mean, I'll need to handle? You always take care of this stuff." "I did. But you made it clear that Christmas isn't for losers, and I figured that philosophy probably extends to other areas of life too. I'm sure someone with a real family and meaningful accomplishments can figure out orthodontist payments." There was silence. "Then, Sarah, don't be ridiculous. This is about Emma's teeth. And I'm sure her parents will take great care of that. After all, I'm just someone who sits in front of a computer making PowerPoints. What would I know about real responsibilities?" I hung up. The calls escalated from there. Wednesday, it was about Tyler's speech therapy. Thursday, the mortgage company called Jessica to inform her that her December payment was past due. By the following Monday, she was calling me every few hours. "Sarah, this isn't funny anymore. The mortgage payment is due and Brad's still between jobs. You know we can't afford it right now. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Maybe Brad's family can help, the ones you're spending Christmas with." "You're being cruel." "No, Jessica. I'm being a loser. There's a difference." Between Jessica's increasingly frantic calls, I found myself having some of the best weeks I'd had in years. Without the constant stress of managing my sister's financial crises, I actually had time to focus on my own life. I took on a new client, a major tech startup that wanted to rebrand completely. The project was challenging and exciting, exactly the kind of work that reminded me why I loved what I did. I also started doing things I'd put off for months. I finally redecorated my home office, something I'd been meaning to do but never had time for because I was always putting out fires for Jessica's family. I signed up for a pottery class I'd been interested in. I even went on a few dates with a guy named David that my friend Rachel had been trying to set me up with for ages. The irony wasn't lost on me. The moment I stopped being available as my family's personal ATM, my actual life got better. I slept better too, no longer waking up in the middle of the night worrying about whether Jessica would call with another emergency. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The guilt was crushing at times. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to call and check on Emma and Tyler, worried about how they were handling the stress at home. I knew they could sense something was wrong, even if they didn't understand what. My friend Marcus, the family lawyer, called to check on me the week after I'd stopped all the payments. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "Some days better than others," I admitted. "I keep wondering if I'm doing the right thing." "Sarah, can I ask you something? In the 3 years you've been supporting them, has their situation improved at all? Has Brad gotten more motivated to find work? Has Jessica shown any appreciation beyond those quick thanks texts?" I thought about it. No. If anything, Brad's gotten more comfortable not working. And Jessica's gotten more entitled. Then you have your answer. You weren't helping them, you were enabling them. There's a difference. He was right, but knowing that intellectually didn't make the emotional side easier. The worst part was the isolation. I couldn't talk to my parents about it because they were firmly on Jessica's side. My few close friends were supportive, but they didn't really understand the family dynamics. Most of them came from families where this kind of financial dependency wasn't normal. The breaking point with my parents came the following Tuesday. Mom showed up at my office, something she'd never done before. Karen buzzed me with barely concealed panic in her voice. "Your mother is here, and she's upset." I found Mom in the lobby, pacing back and forth in her good church dress and pearls, clearly having worked herself up for this confrontation. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. I led her back to my office, grateful that most of my team was out at client meetings. The last thing I needed was my professional space becoming a stage for family drama. "Mom, if this is about Jessica..." "Of course it's about Jessica. Sarah, what has gotten into you? That girl is beside herself. Those children are going to end up homeless because of your stubbornness. Those children are going to end up homeless because their parents can't manage their finances. Don't you dare." Mom's voice rose, and I was grateful I closed my office door. "Jessica made one little comment, and you're willing to destroy her entire family over it?" "One little comment?" I stared at her. "Mom, she called me a loser. She said there was no place for me at Christmas because I haven't built a meaningful life. She dismissed my career, my choices, everything I've worked for. And you sat there and said nothing?" Mom's face flushed. She was having a bad day. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed, do they? Because it felt like she'd been thinking those things for a long time and finally said them out loud. "You're being dramatic." That word, dramatic, triggered something in me. It was the same word my family had always used to dismiss my feelings. When I was upset about being left out, I was being dramatic. When I called out unfair treatment, I was being dramatic. When I asked for the same consideration they gave Jessica, I was being dramatic. You want to know what's dramatic, Mom? Dramatic is a grown woman with 2 children who hasn't worked in 8 years. Dramatic is a man who refuses to take jobs because they're beneath him while his sister-in-law pays his mortgage. Dramatic is spending money you don't have on professional Christmas decorations while your kid's education is funded by someone else. Sarah Elizabeth, that is enough. No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. I stood up, something I'd never done during a confrontation with my mother. For 3 years, I have quietly, without fanfare or recognition, kept your precious daughter's family afloat. I've paid for everything from their mortgage to their groceries, and the thanks I get is being told I'm a loser who doesn't deserve to spend Christmas with my own family. We never said you couldn't come to Christmas, Jessica did. She made it clear that Christmas was for people with real families, people who had accomplished something meaningful. And you know what the worst part is? You all agreed with her. Nobody defended me. Nobody said, actually, Sarah has built an incredible business and supports all of us. Nobody said, Sarah deserves respect. You just sat there and let her tear me down. Mom was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. Then she straightened her shoulders and gave me the look I remembered from childhood, the one that meant I was being unreasonable and needed to fall in line. Family doesn't keep score, Sarah. Family helps each other without expecting gratitude or recognition. You're right, I said calmly. Family doesn't keep score. But they also don't let one member subsidize another's entire lifestyle while treating them like garbage. They don't dismiss someone's achievements or make them feel worthless for not following the exact same life path. So this is it? You're just going to abandon them? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm stopping enabling them. There's a difference, though I don't expect you to understand it. Mom gathered her purse and headed for the door. I hope you're happy, she said. I hope whatever point you're trying to make is worth destroying this family. I'm not destroying anything, Mom. I'm just finally refusing to be the foundation that everyone else stands on while pretending I don't exist. After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, shaking. Karen brought me tea without being asked, and fielded my calls for the rest of the afternoon. I'd never confronted my mother like that, had never laid out so clearly how the family dynamic worked and how it had affected me. That night, Dad called. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious to see if his approach would be different from Mom's. Your mother is upset, he said without preamble. I imagine she is. She says you were disrespectful. I was honest. If that came across as disrespectful, maybe that says something about how I've been treated. There was a long pause. My father wasn't a man of many words, never had been. But when he spoke, people listened. Sarah, help me understand something. How much have you been giving Jessica? I was surprised by the question. You mean recently, or over time? Over time. I'd never laid it all out for my parents. Jessica had been careful to frame each instance as a one-time favor, never letting them see the full scope of my support. But sitting there, angry and hurt and tired of being the family secret, I decided to tell him everything. In the past 2 years? About $90,000. That's not counting the house down payment or the various emergencies before that. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Dad? I'm here. I'm just processing. Another long pause. Sarah, we had no idea. Jessica always made it sound like you helped out occasionally, not that you were paying their bills. She didn't want you to know. Bad for her image, I guess. And you never said anything. Would it have mattered? You all made it clear years ago that Jessica was the one who needed protecting, who needed support. I was the strong one, the independent one. I wasn't supposed to need anything from anyone. That's not. We never meant, he sighed. Your mother and I, we've always been proud of you, Sarah. Your success, your independence. Maybe we assumed that meant you didn't need the same kind of attention Jessica did. There's a difference between not needing attention and being treated like an ATM. You're right. And what Jessica said to you? That was unacceptable. I should have said something at the time. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever gotten from my father, and it caught me off guard. I felt tears starting and fought them back. I love Jessica, Dad. I love Emma and Tyler. But I can't keep propping up a lifestyle that's unsustainable while being treated like I'm somehow less than because I chose a different path. I understand. And for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. It's going to be hard on them, but maybe that's what they need. It was more support than I'd expected, and it meant more to me than I could express. The next few days brought a different kind of call from Jessica. Instead of anger or tears, there was a desperation that was harder to listen to. My friend Karen from work had been checking on me regularly. We'd worked together for 3 years and she knew about my family's situation. Sarah, Emma asked me why we have to move, she said during one call. She doesn't understand why we can't live in our house anymore. How do I explain to an 8-year-old that Mommy's sister isn't helping us anymore because Mommy said something mean? It was a low blow, using Emma's confusion to manipulate me. But I'd been expecting it. You don't explain it that way, I said. You explain that mommy and daddy are going to take care of the family now, the way parents are supposed to. You explain that sometimes families have to make changes, and that's okay because you'll all be together. She's going to lose her friends, her school. Jessica, stop. You're not the first family to have to downsize or move. Kids are resilient. Emma will make new friends, adjust to a new school. What she won't recover from is learning that her parents can't take care of her without someone else's money. So you're going to let my children suffer to teach me a lesson? Your children aren't suffering because of me. If they're suffering, it's because their parents made financial decisions they couldn't sustain. I'm not their parent, Jessica. You are. The manipulation attempts got more creative over the following days. Brad called, something he'd never done before. Sarah, I know I haven't been the provider I should have been, he said. I got comfortable letting you help, and that was wrong. But I'm trying to change. I've been applying for jobs every day. That's good, Brad. That's what you should be doing. But in the meantime, Emma's orthodontist is threatening to remove her braces completely if we don't catch up on payments. And Tyler's speech has been improving so much with therapy. If we have to stop now, then you need to find a way to pay for those things. Apply for payment plans, look into insurance coverage, find programs for low-income families. Be creative. We've tried all that, have you? Or have you gotten comfortable having me solve every problem? There was silence, and I knew I'd hit the mark. I'm not trying to punish anyone, I continued. But I'm also not going to keep enabling a situation that isn't healthy for any of us. You're capable of taking care of your family, Brad. You just need to start doing it. The hardest call came from Emma herself. Jessica must have coached her, because 8-year-olds don't usually call about orthodontic payments. Aunt Sarah? Mommy says you're not going to help with my braces anymore. Did I do something wrong? My heart broke. Whatever issues I had with Jessica and Brad, Emma and Tyler were innocent in all this. But I also knew that giving in now would just reset the entire cycle. Oh, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect exactly as you are. Then why won't you help us anymore? Because your mommy and daddy are going to take care of you now. That's what parents do, and they love you very much. But what if they can't? The question hung in the air, and I realized this was the fear at the heart of everything, not just for Emma, but for Jessica, Brad, even my parents. What if they couldn't handle it on their own? Emma, do you know what I think? I said. I think your parents are much stronger and more capable than they've been letting themselves be. And I think once they start taking care of everything themselves, they're going to feel really good about it. Like when you learned to ride your bike without training wheels, remember? It was scary at first. But then it felt really good, right? Because you did it all by yourself. Yeah. That's what's going to happen with your family. It might be a little scary at first, but then you're all going to feel proud because you're doing it together. After I hung up, I cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not from guilt or regret, but from grief. Grief for the relationship with Jessica that I thought we had but apparently never did. Grief for the years I'd spent trying to buy my place in a family that saw me as useful rather than valuable. Grief for the innocence Emma and Tyler were losing as they learned that the adults in their lives weren't as stable as they'd seemed. Tuesday, she showed up at my office. Karen, my colleague who often covered reception when our actual receptionist was busy, buzzed me to say my sister was in the lobby, crying. I almost gave in. Almost. But then I remembered her words, her tone, the way our parents just sat there and let her call me a loser. Tell her I'm in meetings all day, I told Karen. That evening, Jessica was waiting in my driveway when I got home. She looked terrible, puffy eyes, no makeup, wearing the same clothes from the day before. Sarah, please. We need to talk. We talked plenty at Mom and Dad's. I was having a bad day. I didn't mean it. I unlocked my front door but didn't invite her in. You meant it, Jessica. Maybe not the way you said it, but you meant it. You think I'm less than you because I don't have kids and a husband. You think what I do doesn't matter. You think I exist to fund your life while you get to feel superior to me. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my work? My life? My dreams? When's the last time you said thank you for anything I've done? Really said it, not just texted it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. You want to know something, Jessica? I love my life. I travel wherever I want, whenever I want. I've built a business that employs 12 people. I own my house outright. I have friends who respect me and clients who value my work. I'm not a loser just because I don't have your life. I know that, she whispered. No, you don't. If you did, you never would have said what you said. She started crying again. Sarah, please. I'm sorry. I really am. But Emma's braces? And we're going to lose the house. Brad's been trying to find work, but nobody's hiring in construction right now, and his back injury makes it hard for him to do other jobs. I was scared and I took it out on you, but please don't punish my kids for my mistake. And there it was. The manipulation I'd been expecting. Make it about the kids. Make me the bad guy for punishing them. I'm not punishing anyone, I said calmly. I'm just not funding your family anymore. You're adults. You can figure out how to take care of your own children. With what money, Sarah? You know we don't have it. Then maybe Brad needs to take a job outside construction. Maybe you need to go back to work. Maybe you need to downsize your house or move in with your parents. Maybe you need to make the hard choices that adults make instead of relying on your loser sister to subsidize your lifestyle. The words were harsh, but I meant every one. That weekend, my parents called. Mom was crying before she even said hello. Sarah, honey, Jessica told us what happened. She says you've cut off all support for the children. You can't do this to those babies. I'm not doing anything to them, Mom. I'm simply not paying their parents' bills anymore. But they'll lose their house. Then maybe Jessica and Brad should have thought about that before calling me a loser who has no place at Christmas. Dad got on the line. Sarah, your sister made a mistake. She's sorry. But you can't let your pride hurt those children. My pride? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, this isn't about pride. This is about respect. For 3 years, I've paid their mortgage, their car payment, their medical bills, their everything. And in return, I get told I'm a loser with no real accomplishments who doesn't deserve to spend Christmas with my own family. She was upset, she was honest. Finally honest about how she really sees me. How you all see me, apparently, since nobody bothered to defend me. There was silence. I've spent my adult life trying to prove I was worthy of this family's love, I continued. Trying to make up for not being the daughter or sister you wanted. Well, I'm done. I'm done apologizing for being successful. I'm done apologizing for being single. I'm done funding a lifestyle for people who think I'm a failure. Mom started crying harder. Sarah, please, I'm not cutting anyone off permanently, I said. But I'm also not an ATM. If you want a relationship with me, it needs to be based on mutual respect, not financial dependency. I spent the next week fielding increasingly desperate calls from Jessica. The mortgage company had started foreclosure proceedings after 2 missed payments. Emma's orthodontist had suspended her treatment temporarily until payments resumed. Tyler's speech therapy sessions were cancelled. Their car payments had fallen behind significantly. Each call was the same pattern: tears, apologies, then anger when I didn't immediately cave. You're destroying my children's lives. She screamed during one call. No, Jessica. You and Brad are. I'm not their parent. You are. We can't do this without help. Then get help. Apply for assistance programs. Ask Brad's family, the ones you think are so much better than me. Get a job. Be creative. But stop expecting me to fund your life while you treat me like garbage. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later. Jessica showed up at my door again, but this time she looked different. Defeated, maybe, but also clearer somehow. I got a job, she said without preamble. I raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. It's not much. Receptionist at a dental office. $28,000 a year. But it's something. She took a deep breath. And Brad got hired by a landscaping company. It's not construction, and it's hard on his back, but it's 40 hours a week with benefits. Good for you both. We're going to lose the house, she continued. We can't catch up on the back payments, and we can't afford the mortgage even with both our salaries. Mom and Dad said we can move into their basement temporarily while we look for something smaller. I nodded but didn't offer to help. It was killing me, every instinct I had was screaming at me to write a check and fix everything. But I held firm. I need you to know, Jessica said, her voice shaking, that I never thought you were a loser. I was jealous. I've been jealous of you for years. That caught me off guard. Jealous of me? You have freedom. You have success. You built something amazing, and you did it all on your own. Meanwhile, I got pregnant young and tied myself to a man who can't provide for his family. I love Brad, I love my kids, but some days I look at my life and wonder what would have happened if I'd made different choices. She wiped her eyes. When I called you a loser, I was talking to myself. I was projecting all my own insecurities onto you because it was easier than admitting that maybe I'm the one who hasn't accomplished anything meaningful. I felt my anger starting to crack. Jessica. I'm not asking for money, she said quickly. I know that's over, and honestly, it needs to be. We never should have become so dependent on you. It wasn't fair to any of us. Then what do you want? I want my sister back. I want to find a way to have a relationship that isn't about money. I want my kids to know their aunt, the real you, not just the person who pays for things. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is an invitation. To Christmas dinner. At Mom and Dad's. It's not fancy, and we can't afford a professional decorator or a big spread. But it's family. Real family. And there's a place for you if you want it. I took the invitation but didn't open it. I understand if you say no, she continued. I understand if you can't forgive me. But I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. You're not a loser. You're the strongest, most successful person I know, and I'm sorry it took almost losing you to realize how lucky I am to be your sister. After she left, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, staring at that invitation. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Part of me was still so hurt and angry that the thought of pretending everything was fine made me sick. But another part of me missed my family. Missed Emma's laugh and Tyler's endless questions about everything. Missed having somewhere to belong, even if it was complicated. I called my therapist, Dr. Martinez, and got an emergency session. She helped me work through my feelings and figure out what I actually wanted, not what I thought I should want. "Do you believe Jessica was sincere?" she asked. "I think so. She seemed different. More real, I guess." "And what would it mean to you to rebuild this relationship?" "It would mean setting boundaries I've never set before. It would mean accepting that our relationship might be smaller but healthier." "Are you prepared for that?" I thought about it. "I think so. But I need to be sure this time. No more being taken for granted. No more being the family ATM." Christmas morning, I showed up at my parents' house with gifts for Emma and Tyler, books, not expensive electronics or toys. Jessica answered the door, and for the first time in years, she hugged me without asking for anything. The day was awkward at times. Old patterns don't die easily. But there were moments of real connection too. Emma showed me her drawings, and Tyler told me all about his favorite dinosaurs. Jessica and I actually really talked, about her new job, my latest client projects, and what we wanted our relationship to look like going forward. Brad apologized to me privately. "I know I should have been providing for my family instead of letting you carry us," he said. "I got comfortable being taken care of, and that wasn't fair to anyone. I'm going to do better." I believed him. More importantly, I could see that he was already trying. The house thing resolved itself a month later. They found a small rental in a decent school district for $1,200 a month, half what their mortgage had been. Emma switched to a public school that had better resources, including a school counselor who helped connect us with a dental school program where students provided orthodontic care at reduced rates. Tyler's new school had a speech therapist on staff who could provide services twice weekly through their special education program. It's not the life Jessica thought she wanted, but it's a life they're building themselves, and there's dignity in that. I still help sometimes, but in small ways and on my terms. I paid for Tyler's school shoes when his old ones fell apart. I took Emma to a movie when Jessica was sick. I brought dinner over when Brad was working double shifts. But it's help, not dependency. There's a difference. Our relationship is still fragile. We're still learning how to be sisters instead of creditor and debtor. But for the first time in years, when Jessica calls me, I don't wonder what she needs. Sometimes she just wants to talk. 2 months ago, she sent me a card for no reason. Inside, she'd written, "Thank you for loving me enough to let me fall. Thank you for teaching me how to stand back up. I'm proud to be your sister." I cried when I read it. Good tears. Last week, Jessica called with news. She'd been promoted to office manager at the dental practice. The raise wasn't huge, but it meant they could afford a 2-bedroom apartment instead of a 1-bedroom. More importantly, it meant she was building something for herself. "I never thought I could be good at anything except being a mom," she told me. "But I'm actually good at this job. Dr. Peterson says I'm the best office manager they've ever had." I could hear the pride in her voice, and it made me happy in a way that my own successes rarely did. The whole experience taught me something important. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling someone. Jessica needed to learn she could take care of herself and her family. I needed to learn that my worth wasn't tied to how much I could give. We still have work to do. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight, and patterns that took years to develop don't disappear in a few months. But we're trying, and that's something. Last Sunday, I was over at their apartment helping Emma with a school project when Jessica's phone rang. It was a friend asking if she could lend her money for something. Jessica looked at me, smiled, and said into the phone, "I'm sorry, but I can't. We're still getting back on our feet ourselves. Have you looked into payment plans or assistance programs?" When she hung up, I squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you," I said. "I learned from the best," she replied. It's not a perfect ending. We're not the family from a Hallmark movie. But we're real, and we're trying, and maybe that's enough. To anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, it's okay to set boundaries with family. It's okay to demand respect. It's okay to love someone and still refuse to enable their dysfunction. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people figure out their own lives. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they'll thank you for it later. Update: a lot of people have been asking what happened with my parents in all this. That's a whole other story, but the short version is that they've started treating me differently too. When they realized how much I'd been contributing to Jessica's family, and how their reaction, or lack thereof, to her calling me a loser had hurt me, they had their own moment of reckoning. Dad actually called me a few weeks ago to apologize. "I never realized," he said, "how much you'd sacrificed for this family or how little we appreciated it. I'm sorry it took losing you for us to see clearly." It's a start. Mom's been trying to, in her way. She asks about my work now, my friends, my travels. She doesn't just see me as the responsible one anymore, she sees me as a person with my own life worth celebrating. The relationships are all different now. Smaller in some ways, but more genuine. I'm not the family's ATM anymore, but I'm also not taken for granted. It's a fair trade. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd handled things differently, if I'd exploded at Jessica instead of staying calm, or if I just cut everyone off permanently. But I think this way worked out better. It gave everyone a chance to grow and change, including me. I'm not the same person who used to write checks to avoid confrontation. I'm not the same person who equated love with financial support. I'm still learning who I am without those patterns, but I like her more every day. And next Christmas? I'll be there. Not because I have to be, not because I'm expected to pay for it, but because I want to be. Because I love my family, even with all our flaws and complications. That's the kind of love worth having.